start there.
Therese Kent, and I'm with Fowler Elementary School District. This is my third year with their district, and it's my third year in early childhood education. Come from a background of community college and high school predominantly,
Wow.
although I've taught everything from K to 12.
Wow.
Currently the Assistant Special Education Director, so in my teaching career, about 8 or 9 years of that has been in special ed, but again, predominantly general ed, predominantly high school.
You know what I find so interesting? I remember you and I chatting at the very first conference. It's clear in my mind. You came up to me and you said, "What's the intent of this project?" And you wanted to know, and if I'm remembering correctly, you wanted to know the direction we were moving in. And it was important to you that we were moving in the direction of really looking at children holistically. And once we started to have that conversation, I remember you getting excited about that.
Yes.
That it's finally we're moving in the direction that what children need. And as you've been in this project, what I find very inspiring is that so much of what we're saying children need, and we're talking little kids.
Exactly.
You're saying big kids need too.
Exactly, and I think one of the things that's so exciting to me, and I guess, right up front, I guess I really had no idea, because my own kids were in kindergarten 25 years ago, and my grandkids have just started kindergarten in the last 3 or 4 years. So I kind of think they maybe are getting the best of both worlds, and maybe they miss that whole chunk of paper, pencil, academics. It just makes me sad to hear that, and I guess I didn't realize that was happening in kindergarten.
Right.
And this project, it's made me really reflect on how lucky I've been, because I was trained to be a business educator. That is project-based and hands-on just by the nature of it. And so that when I moved into more academic subjects, which I've taught a lot of, I tended to go toward that, project-based and trying to do things long-term and trying to make connections.
Right.
In college in the late 70s, reading and writing across the curriculum, reading particularly,
Right.
reading across the curriculum, that was a big new thing.
Yeah.
It just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, why do we just have to teach things discreetly? And so I think that's one of the things that excites me about this project is that, and about the way that it's been rolled out, is that everything is connected. They're not separate things that we learn each time, but everything is connected. And you can do all of those things, across those different developmental areas, which is exciting to me.
The other thing that I think that you've contributed greatly to our group, our reflection. When we have our trainers come out and our content experts come out and we have that opportunity for reflection, one of the things that you've contributed, I think, significantly to the group is the perspective of social emotional development, because we have spent so much time. It's been nice for when you would make the connections between the younger children and the older children, and that we really need across all levels the same types of connections with children. Can you speak a little bit to that, about your experience working with older children and as it relates to some of the experiences we've shared here with this project?
So the kids that are near and dear to my heart are those older students, like sophomore, juniors, seniors, really up to 21 years old, however long they can stay in high school, who've been kicked out of regular school. So I've worked on alternative campuses probably for a total of 7 or 8 years. And what I always start with is the social emotional piece, because these kids somehow, a lot of these kids, what's fascinating to me is they did well in school up to about 5th grade.
Yeah.
And then once they moved away from having one teacher that could make that connection, they really started to struggle. And oftentimes, they don't read well, they don't write well, they don't do math well,
Right.
even though they do a lot of other things well. And so one of my important tasks was to teach them what they do well, and to teach them, to let them know that in 3 years when they're out of high school, they can have a job where, they can do that hands-on thing that they do really well, really for the rest of their lives. They just kind of have to get through the hoops. But what amazes me about this training is so much of what we're learning that we need to explicitly teach kids in early childhood. Those are the things that I'd be teaching those 17, 18, 19-year-olds. They need it. If they could get it when they were 3 and have that strong sense of self and have that sense of a joy of learning, and maybe if, paper pencil is not your thing, but we have all these other ways that you can contribute in the classroom that are as important. I just think, those alternative schools, we wouldn't need them probably.
You know, that's the perspective that I think that so often I go back to when I do any kind of session on social emotional development, is that those primary years are so critical, and that kindergarten entry into formal education is often the first time for many children to have that experience. And it's such a critical year to kind of fill in the gaps for children to have that strong sense of self, to see themselves as a competent learner, to see that if this doesn't work, I have 10 other possibilities, and that I have the power to choose that. And so often we get so fixated on the academic without looking at social emotional as an important component to it. You see that in high school. You see that with the kiddos who, you know, they've long gone in early childhood. And you start to see, it's like that Jenga that I always like to show, that they're the gaping holes at those first few years.
Yes.
And they might get through third, fourth, and fifth grade fine. And then they really start to struggle. And so I think it's just been such because I don't work in high school, I don't work with big kids, and I often say, I don't know anything about big kids. But it's been nice to have you share the reflections of your experiences with older children, because now I realize it's a human experience.
Exactly.
And not just a little kid thing or a secondary ed. It really is a human experience of connecting, and the significance of that.
You know, and you talked this morning about drinking the Kool-Aid. It's not just drinking the Kool-Aid. And I think of the things, I'm getting to the end of 30 plus years in public education, and I think of the things that have come and gone, but for myself, I think of the things that I've kept parts of. So, you know, reading and writing and math across the curriculum, teaching to multiple intelligences, learning styles, hands-on, project-oriented kinds of things, the importance of making connections is important for all. I mean, it was important for us as adults here.
Yeah.
We didn't just come and you talked to us and then we marked some things down on a worksheet and passed it in. You know, it's important to all learners.
Yeah.
And so I for me, and I guess I didn't ever think about that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds.
What would you say to teachers and administrators about this project and why it would be an important endeavor to move in this direction?
It seems, it's so interesting to me that we're having to move in this direction when it seems like it's what we should have been doing all along. You know, and again, as I reflect on myself, I'm so grateful that for whatever reason, because I was teaching not core academic subjects, because of the timing and how I've moved in my career, I haven't ever really had to spend huge amounts of time like looking at data. And so I was just able to spend time looking at students and working with students, which I get that the data piece is important. I get that we need to collect that, but it's just been the be all to end all.
Right.
And it hasn't gotten us anywhere. And I guess that's what always floors me. We've been doing this for 20 years now.
Yeah.
It's made no difference. It hasn't closed the achievement gap. It hasn't made our test score. It hasn't made a difference. And I see these other things that we're doing. That's where we can get so much bang for our buck. So if we can change kind of the culture of classrooms and schools, if we can change the mindsets of teachers and administrators, if we really believe that we want to serve all kids, and if our goal really is to keep all kids in school and keep all kids learning, you know, we just have to teach them responsibility. We have to teach them responsibility, and I think we do that through just allowing them a variety of experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your continued support in this project. It's been really, I think, important to all of us. You know, each one of us are contributors to the experience, and so yeah, thank you for being a part of it.
Well, you're welcome. For me, it's been an honor, and it's been such a great learning experience for me and my teachers at my preschool, which I am, you know, I'm their direct supervisor, have benefited so much from this training. So, you know, I don't really work with kindergarten teachers, but in our preschool, we bring it back and we share.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.